by the American Coast Guard, which is frequently paying visits in both Montenegro and in Albania, frequently, almost every year. And then we had the opportunity to have them last week here in Albania, and monitoring all the ports regarding the port security. So the port security now is an issue. It's an issue because from this security in ports, and also during the navigation, it can vary a lot of issues. So if there is an incident, it can cost you not only blocking for one port, but it will be for a long time. It has to reduce the number of flow of goods or the passengers that are passing. That's why thank you for these inputs, which are very important. I would go that you know that everything, at least here in Western Balkan, it's easy to manage internally, but what is most important is that the international organizations, the institutions they have their focus to assist regional partners. They have to have a clear strategy. And then here in the panel we have the director of Transport Community Permanent Secretariat. And my next question goes to him about this. What are the strategies? The main strategies and priorities of the transport community for enhancing the transport and mainly focused on maritime transport in the region.
Thank you very much, Elson. I mean, you have heard me already, so I don't want to repeat myself on what I said before, because definitely I completely agree with all the other speakers. So allow me first to perhaps reply to some of the things that were said now. First of all, if I look at what the port of the future should be, I actually believe that the port of the future should be a port city. When I say port city, I mean that the ports should expand in a, not maybe physical sense, but in a psychological sense of being the center of economic development, center for energy for the country or for the region, with LNG terminals, with everything else. The centers for tourism, of course, bringing tourism, but also entertaining them in the port. And with plenty of potential in the ports and around the ports. Center for safety and security, as well as a Deputy Minister mentioned very well. So all of this should be the ports of the future. And when I am visiting different ports in Europe, for example, I have seen how this is already being implemented around the world. For example, just a small example, I was in Port of Bremen a few years ago, and when I was visiting the port, I saw these huge parts of the wind turbines being stored in the port. So I said, oh, are they being shipped? I said, no, they're being stored here, because we know when we will have a lot of space, and that's why this is a perfect place where we can, for a certain period, store parts of the wind turbines which have these huge arms and so on. So my point is that a port activity per se? Well, it should be, and it is, because why? You know, if you have a space because the containers are somewhere else, use it for something else. And if you can use it for the energy project, this is the way to go. So all of this, so the ports of the future are the ports where the port and the city become one. And I think that is, let's say, the change of the narrative here. Now, to answer a bit your question, for that to happen, for the ports here in the South Adriatic, or let's say this part of the Aegean and so on, you know, working as one in a network is the way to go. I know the port of the North Adriatic very well. One of my ports very close to my heart is Port of Koper, for obvious reasons. And I know how much they work together, but at the same time, they're also the biggest competitors. Because basically the ship can go 1 meter on the left and it's in Koper, and 1 meter on the right it's in Trieste. Literally almost. So, but still they work together because they found that there are certain topics on which they can not only work as competitors, but also as strategic partners to attract the traffic towards this part of Europe. So I think that could perhaps be a good idea also to the ports here in the region to think, what would be the common denominator and of course also differentiator between them. At the same time, I'm coming back to one of my favorite topics, which of course is the standards. So legislation. I mean, we are still not where we want to be when it comes to the legislation. So reforms, when it comes to that, still are ongoing and needs to continue. And I think this is really, really important because when it comes to the environmental standards, when it comes to the European single window, when it comes to the port reception facility and so on, these are the topics which of course are very important for the ports to be at a level where they can compete with each other on the same footing, but also attract the trade across the board. And just one more remark from my side. I mean, the beautiful part of this region is that it's actually relatively small. If you see major cities across this region are 400 kilometers plus minus. Yeah? And then you can imagine what that means if we have a sustainable, modern connectivity between the ports, with the rail, with the roads, with the rivers, here in the region, and of course to the other parts of Europe. It would revolutionize the way we travel, it would revolutionize the way we move the goods, and it would make this region one of the most attractive parts of Europe to actually bring what you want to bring to the ports, which is of course business and people. I was in Burgas 2 weeks ago at a conference, and then I had to go to Istanbul. From Burgas to Istanbul is 200 kilometers. I had to go back to Sofia to take a plane, 4 hours to Sofia, plane to Istanbul, to basically spend half of the days to come there for these 200 kilometers, as the crow flies, of course. My point is, our work here is to really work as one when it comes to looking at the transport network. And that's why I'm so happy to see here Director of Customs, because what's happening on the transport is so important for what's happening on the borders, and we are really working hand in hand to try to reduce the waiting times, increase the capacity, as well as safety and security of the border crossings. So all of this comes as one, and that's why I think this is the only way to go. Sorry, I was a bit long.
No, you don't have to be sorry because it was a very good words, but
Don't say that.